South Africa's electricity market is undergoing a fundamental structural transition toward open competition. The rules governing how this market will operate are now very close to their final form. For South African business leaders, large energy users, and corporate offtakers, understanding these exact mechanics is absolutely critical. The regulatory parameters established today will directly dictate corporate power procurement strategies for years to come.
We will cover 4 distinct areas to outline this shifting landscape. First, the revised trading rules. Second, the phasing in of retail competition. Third, newly defined market concepts. And fourth, the remaining open questions.
Section 1. The revised trading rules.
The regulatory timeline shows significant momentum. Following initial objections from Eskom regarding the first draft published in November 2025, the National Energy Regulator of South Africa initiated a necessary second round of intensive consultation. This resulted in version 3 of the draft rules for electricity trading, which was released for public comment on June 26, 2026. The critical window for formal written comments officially closed on July 27, 2026, meaning the period for public input and industry lobbying has concluded. The regulator has now set a firm target to have these finalized rules officially gazetted in August 2026. We are looking at an imminent transition from theoretical framework to operational law. The regulator describes these revised rules as a comprehensive architecture designed to enable the phased implementation of bilateral electricity trading. The core objectives are clear. They aim to ensure competitive neutrality, prevent the uneconomic bypass of network costs, and protect consumer interests. For corporate offtakers, the concept of preventing uneconomic bypass is particularly significant. It means businesses can't simply use the deregulated rules to entirely abandon their shared grid obligations or legacy network costs. To manage the balance between open competition and grid sustainability, the rules establish practical mechanisms like non-bypassable charges and strict volume restrictions. Understanding these embedded costs is going to be essential for accurate corporate financial modeling.
Section 2. Phasing in retail competition.
The transition toward a fully competitive electricity retail market won't happen overnight. Instead, it's being implemented through a highly structured, gradual approach, with market competition arriving in distinct, managed phases. Crucially, the deliberate design introduces retail competition for large electricity users first. This initial phase is structured entirely around the consumption scale of commercial and industrial entities. Only after this step is operationalized will the market eventually expand to include all smaller customers. For the corporate sector, this means the initial market opening is an immediate operational reality. Large offtakers are at the front of the line, which requires proactive procurement strategies right now. Legal analysts at Baumann's have identified a distinct and important shift in regulatory focus between the iterations of these rules. While earlier drafts were heavily weighted toward residential consumer protection, the version 3 draft specifically acknowledges that large commercial and industrial customers possess entirely different needs, along with sophisticated capabilities. The business implication here is profound. By recognizing the specific capacity of commercial entities, the market will now facilitate highly complex, bespoke power purchase agreements. For corporate boards, this signals that standard utility contracts will soon be replaced by sophisticated, multi-party energy agreements that demand immediate, strategic financial planning.
Section 3. Newly defined market concepts.
As businesses enter this competitive landscape, the latest draft provides the formal language that will govern all future energy contracts. These terms represent the new architecture of corporate procurement. At the foundation, we have direct supply agreements and electricity trading agreements. These establish the baseline legal structures for buying and selling power outside the traditional utility model. Building on that, the rules formalize the mechanics of virtual wheeling, which allows energy to be credited across the national grid without a physical, direct line. Roles are also clearly segmented, introducing concepts like top-up customers for those needing supplemental power and balance responsible parties to manage grid stability. Together, these terms form the contractual boundaries that business leaders will use to negotiate future energy supply.
Section 4. Remaining open questions.
Despite the operational clarity provided by these newly defined terms, significant structural limitations remain within the current draft. Baumann's explicitly flagged several open questions regarding systematic constraints that will directly impact immediate market participation. For large energy users, these unresolved mechanics regarding incumbent distributors, wholesale traders, and virtual wheeling constraints aren't just theoretical policy debates. They represent primary risk factors for any corporation attempting to model its energy costs and procurement strategies over the next 1 to 3 years.
The first major structural issue involves incumbent licensing. Currently, ESCOM distribution and municipal distributors do not hold separate trading licenses. Yet, under the draft rules, they remain the default retailers through the critical first 2 phases of the market opening. The full separation of distribution and trading functions for these entities is officially deferred to Phase 4. Furthermore, Phase 4 will not commence until at least 6 years after the South African wholesale electricity market officially launches. For corporate buyers, this creates immediate operational friction. It means businesses will navigate a complex, hybrid, semi-monopolistic environment in the near term, where the grid operator is simultaneously competing as a default retailer.
The second critical issue concerns the strict restrictions placed on independent traders. Under the revised rules, licensed independent traders cannot buy or sell directly in the wholesale market during Phases 1 and 2. They can only apply to participate in the wholesale space starting from Phase 3. Crucially, Phase 3 cannot begin until the wholesale market has been operating for at least 3 full years. The business impact of this waiting period is substantial. If independent traders are locked out of the wholesale market initially, large commercial users must understand that their choices for independent procurement intermediaries will be severely constrained in the near term, limiting immediate market liquidity.
The third major operational constraint directly relates to virtual wheeling. According to the draft rules, virtual wheeling mechanisms will only become accessible once the wholesale market goes entirely live. Additionally, its utilization is restricted strictly to customers with connection sizes larger than 100 kVA. This 100 kVA threshold is highly intentional. In practice, it definitively excludes small residential consumers and small businesses from participating. It fences virtual wheeling as a specialized procurement tool reserved exclusively for large commercial and industrial players, reinforcing the fact that this market redesign is initially prioritized for massive energy consumers.
The direction of travel for the South African electricity market is settled, and the governing rules are nearing their absolute completion. The decisions shaping how large energy users and offtakers buy power for the next decade are being made now, while the market is still being designed. The fundamental question you must ask your procurement teams today is this: are your energy strategies built for the market we have now or the market we will inherit tomorrow?